imagine? She would be running around the United States right now, compelling you to do something. But I got good news for you. We have somebody with us today who made sure that that nightmare did not become a reality. We have with us today, I hope he's ready to go. Okay. Sometimes you never know if you're up here introducing people. We have with us today the campaign manager for the 2016 candidacy for then Donald J. Trump to become President Donald J. Trump. We have with us today Fox News contributor and a man on cable news every night holding the left accountable, Mr. Corey Lewandowski.
Back in Florida. I'm so lucky and fortunate. I've been having the privilege for the last 6 years of traveling around this great country with candidate Trump, Mr. Trump, President-elect Trump, and President Trump. And I was supposed to be down here last Friday when the president was going to come down to Florida. I was going to be on Air Force One with him, and then things kind of changed a little bit in our world, if you know that. But let me tell you something. You guys have a special obligation now. See, 4 years ago, Donald Trump was a resident of New York. But now, like almost every other American, I think, he moved to Florida, and now he's going to live in Florida You know, guys, thank you for being here. I know you could be doing a lot of different things right now, but let me just take a couple minutes and tell you about this president, what he's been able to accomplish, because the media is never going to do it. Right? They're never going to tell you how successful the first 4 years of this administration is going to be. So I'm going to tick through it real quick, okay? Whether it's federal judges, 200 plus federal judges to the bench, 2 Supreme Court justices with a third one coming in 2 weeks. That fundamentally transforms the judiciary so that we no longer have judges who are legislating from the bench, but use this crazy new document called the Constitution as their guiding principle. See, the left has never read that, so they don't understand what that means, and Sleepy Joe is still yet to release his list of potential Supreme Court justices because we know what they would look like. He'll never do it. So, the federal judiciary, check. Hey, how about Middle East peace? First time in 26 years. During the signing of the Middle East peace accords at the White House a couple weeks ago, CNN said a bunch of people have gathered on the South Lawn and didn't have masks on. That's what they said. They didn't say Donald Trump had done the first peace deal in 26 years and he held his promise to move the embassy to the rightful place in Israel. Our allies pay their fair share because they haven't done that, right? Yes. The United Nations today has billions of dollars more because Donald Trump said to our friends around the world, pay your fair share. We don't owe you. You guys owe us.
That's right.
They paid up. And our enemies. You know, Bashir al-Assad decided to use chemical weapons against innocent men, women, and children in his country. And Donald Trump said there's a line in the sand I won't tolerate. And 59 tomahawks went into his backyard. And once again, our allies, they support us, and our enemies fear us. Because we are the greatest military force the world has ever seen because of this president. You know, he rebuilt our military in 4 years, gave our men and women who wear that great uniform the pay raises they deserve, and said, whatever you need to be successful, we will be there. And that's a far cry from where the left was. And let's look at how simplistic some things come down to. Here's what the president said. Let's close our borders and open our schools. Seems pretty simple to me.
That's right.
Every other country in the world knows who pours into their country, right? But not us. The left will say, no, you can't do that. That's mean. We should let anybody come in. And the president said, hey, we're going to have an immigration system that's good for the United States for a change. Because he wakes up with one simple fundamental philosophy. It's called America First. You know, the left wants to keep our schools closed permanently, and I got 4 kids ages from 9 to 13. I can't teach them, to be honest with you, right? This Zoom stuff is for the birds, I gotta be honest with you. My 9-year-old's gonna wear a mask, I think, in my own house because the school's got so afraid of being on a computer. And they said, you can't have any pets in the background. I said, what the hell am I gonna do with my dog? Right? I mean, this is where some of these governors have gone completely awry, right? They've overstepped their constitutional authority. And the Supreme Courts of these states, in Pennsylvania and now in Michigan, have said, you've gone too far, governors. You can't impose these restrictions by determining which business is essential and which one isn't. It's shameful what has happened. So here's what we've got to do. It's so simple, okay? Let's get our kids back to school, because do you know what percentage of kids, once they go to online learning, just disappear out of the rolls? 30% in some of these school districts, which means the teachers have historically been the first line of defense against child neglect and child abuse. Some of these kids no longer get a hot meal. They no longer get the education they deserve. We are doing a disservice to future generations by not having them get into the classroom and learn. And by the way, let me say, because this is all COVID related, do you know what the survival rate is if you're under 18? If you 99.9997%. You have as much chance of dying from COVID-19 as being hit by an asteroid hitting the United States right now. So you can either go get a mask or you can get a helmet. I don't know which one you want to pick, but that's what we're talking about now. So let's get our kids back in the schools. And look, we've got a president like our sheriff here who understands what it's like to support the men and women on the thin blue line. And let me tell you something. You know, I served 4 years in law enforcement in the state of New Hampshire, my home state, and so when I answered a call, the dispatcher didn't say, hey, this is a 72-year-old white male who's very rich who needs your help today. They didn't give me the demographics of the age or the ethnicity or the socioeconomic status. They said, Mr. X or Miss Y called for help, and you know what you do? You go and you show up. And I don't understand a society where we no longer stand for the flag or kneel for God. I'm missing something, guys. I'm missing. When you, quote, redirect funds away from our police, or on your own presidential campaign, what we call the Harris-Biden campaign, that's what they call it, right? See, Kamala said, hey, Joe, you were the vice president once. Your office is down the hall, so if I win, I'll take the big round one, and you can have the other one. Joe said, okay, he didn't know any better. But 13 members of their own campaign team gave money to bail these marauders out of jail after they've committed mayhem and violence, and the media overlooked it. Because the left has the greatest super PAC ever made. It's called the mainstream media. It's called ABC, NBC, CNN, MSDNC, and CBS. They own them all. They own them all. And if you don't believe me, just look at the way they've covered Joe Biden in this campaign. This week, not 30 years ago, not when Joe went into the U.S. Senate 47 years ago. Here's what Joe Biden said this week. I survived COVID because a black woman stacked my shelves for me. What the hell are you talking about? I mean, that's a real question. This is what Joe said. He said, I mean, this is not a mistake. This is a window into Joe Biden's mind. We've seen what his response has been to the charge of racism, which his own running mate has accused him, or at least intimated he's a racist. And the media doesn't even say a word about it. He asked a black reporter, are you on crack? Because you asked me a question. He said, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. He called African-American males super predators from the Senate floor. He gave the eulogy at the second highest ranking Ku Klux Klan member's funeral in the history of our country. They called him the exalted Cyclops, Robert Byrd. And you know what his answer was? Well, he apologized. Oh, I didn't know if you just apologized, that condones you being a KKK member for 40 years. I didn't know that's how it works, but it only works on the left. And so look at Donald Trump's record in the African American community. He passed something called the First Step Act, which allowed people to have criminal justice reform for the first time in a generation. He has economic empowerment zones. He made sure that everybody is treated the same. Think about that, just for a second. Everybody is treated the same. And I'll tell you this, because I know the guy. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, green, orange, or purple. He treats everybody the same. He says, do the job, or you don't get to stick around. Right. Do it what we need to get done, and it doesn't matter. And what do we see under this administration? The lowest unemployment rate for African Americans ever recorded because of the policies of Donald Trump. So look, guys, you know, I've been in my share of fights over the last 6 years. Some physical, maybe a few with CNN, and I spent 6 times in front of Congress, twice in front of Mueller, and 4 times, and you guys remember my testimony in front of Jerry Nadler. You know, some of these guys are such geniuses. One of the congressmen accused me of something. I said, aren't you the guy who said if we put too many people on Guam, it's going to tip over? These are the geniuses that some of these people sent to Congress, okay? It's amazing. We had President Swalwell up here on the dais, right? Eric Swalwell and all these other hypocrites, but it's okay. It's okay. Look, they lied about everything. As a matter of fact, when I testified, Jerry Nadler, with 10 minutes ago left in the hearing, said, the witness has requested a bathroom break. I said, no, I didn't. No, he has to go to the bathroom. I said, hey, Jerry, if you gotta pee, just to be honest, okay? You lie about everything. They lied about me going to the bathroom. That's how dishonest these guys are. And I'll tell you what. It was, just to tell you this quick story, I had my cell phone in between my lap while I was testifying, and the phone just kept ringing and ringing, because it was live on TV, and all these people were calling. I looked down, and like 1,000 other times in my life, it said Donald J. Trump. So the president was calling me while I was testifying. I couldn't take the call. Right? So I get this little break, and I was exhausted. I finally finished, and I call him back, and I said, hey, Mr. President, how you doing? He says, Corey, I want you to put me up to the microphone. I want to talk to the committee. I said, probably not a good idea, sir. I'm not sure. But then I had the chance to talk to the president. I said, no, sir, I gotta be honest with you. I just testified in front of Congress for 7 hours. I'm emotionally and physically exhausted. I'm just beat down, and I'm tired, and I just want to go take a break. And he said, Lewandowski, what the hell is wrong with you? He says, what are you, a baby? You gonna go stand in the corner and suck your thumb? I said, sir, I just testified for 7 hours. He goes, get back out on TV, Lewandowski, right now. I said, yes, sir. So the next day, I went out and did this crazy network called CNN. Maybe you've heard of it, right? And the first question that they said, I came on TV and Allison Camerata said, and now we have a witness who refused to answer the majority of Congress's questions. I said, liar. Yeah. First words out of my mouth, you lie, right? And all of a sudden, the whole interview went downhill from there, which was perfectly fine with me, and they haven't had me back on, which I think is probably just fine too. But here's the thing, and I tell you that story because there has been nobody in our country over the last 6 years who's taken more slings and arrows than this president. None. And he wakes up every day willing and able to fight for us and those who can't fight for him. And so I'll tell you this, on Saturday of last week, the president was in the hospital. I called over to the White House because I wanted to see how my friend was doing. And I said, is the president available? And the White House switchboard said, let me see if I can patch it through, Mr. Lewandowski, which is always really weird that I can get the president's phone faster than the cable company, but that's okay, right? And so the president answered the phone, and I said, hey, sir, how you doing? He says, I'm doing pretty well. I'm feeling better already. Been in the hospital for a day. He says, I'm ready to fight. And I said, sir, I'm going to ask you a favor. He said, what's that? I said, would you let us, all the people that you have fought for the last 6 years, stand in the breach while you recover and let us fight for you? And he said, absolutely. So that's what I ask of you today. and fight for the future of our country, because that is what is at stake. The very soul of our fiber of our being, the very things that our forefathers before us fought for, are now at stake. And I don't say that to tell you what you don't already know. I tell you why I come here and leave my family, my 4 young kids, because I refuse to turn this country over to the leftists, to the socialists, to the people who want to destroy everything that every member of my family, from my brother who served as a Marine for 23 years, to my father who served in Vietnam, and to my grandfather who served in World War II. I refuse to turn this country over worse to my children than was left to me, and that's our obligation to our people. We must. So volunteer. I need you to call Joe here in Naples. He's a great young guy. I need you to come to our office and volunteer. I need you to make more phone calls, knock on more doors, and give more money, because we have an obligation to return the favor to the president who has fought for us every single day. Through all the fake narratives, the fake Russian collusion BS, which we know came directly from Crooked H, and Comey and Clapper and Brennan, who haven't been put in jail yet, but I keep my fingers crossed because it's coming, baby. It's coming. So when you leave here today, whatever you think you did in 2016 to deliver for this president is not enough. I need you to make more phone calls. I need you to talk to more people. If you have the capacity to give money, you give money, because we must, for the sake of future generations. Never look back on November 4th and say, I didn't do my part. I didn't give enough. I know this president will leave every single ounce of energy on the field on election day and do whatever it takes to sacrifice to make sure we keep this country what it is. So I need you to do that for me, please. It's so important. And after you've done that, do some more. And then we win. And we have the opportunity to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we did our part to keep our country great again, because that's what our obligation is. So thank you guys so very much. Special surrogate on the president's campaign team, someone who you might have been able to see if you turn on Fox News or have followed her since the president gave a speech at Mount Rushmore, which was a phenomenal event. She gave one of the keynote speeches at the Republican National Convention, and she's a rising star in the Republican Party. So please join me in welcoming Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota.
The only reason you know who I am is because the liberals, Rachel Maddow, Elizabeth Warren, have been kicking me in the head for all the decisions that I've made for my people in South.
Go Sturgis!
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the media, the national media has told me I was irresponsible, that I was being risky, when ultimately all I said was that I was going to trust my people.
Right.
So we have, I think for all of you, I'll talk a little bit about how I made my decisions, but I think for you to really understand how I made my decisions, you have to know a little bit about me. From the time I was a little girl, 5 or 6 years old, all I wanted to do was to grow up and be a farmer and a rancher. My dad was a cowboy, and he was tough. So, for instance, when he woke us up in the morning, he would yell upstairs to our bedrooms and say, "Get up! More people die in bed than anywhere else." So that's what I grew up in. He worked all the time. He was my best friend, and I loved it. He was killed in an accident on our farm when I was in college, and it was devastating for our family. My sister was living in Georgia at the time, my brother in Oklahoma, my younger brother was still in high school, so I came home and took over the operation. At the time, we were farming about 10,000 acres. We had a cow-calf operation, feedlots, other businesses, and I got put in charge, and it was challenging. I remember about a month and a half or so after Dad passed away, I got a letter in the mail from the IRS that said we owe debt taxes. So like all farmers and ranchers, we had land, we had machinery, and we had cattle, but we didn't have any money in the bank. And then all of a sudden, I owed the federal government hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I didn't have. And it made me mad. So people ask how I got involved in government, it was through that. I took out a loan, it took me 10 years to pay off that operation, and we almost lost our family business, but we still have it today, and for over 20 years our family has farmed together, raised our kids together, and it's been a huge blessing. But I recognized that we needed more normal, everyday people just to show up, like you guys do. Just to show up. We'll be making our decisions on policy and laws, and making sure we have all perspectives represented, and that people who actually take a risk to make sure they're providing greater opportunities are in the room. You know, I ran for Congress in 2010. It was one of the top 5 races in the nation. I'll describe it as a knife fight in a ditch. It was not fun. Since then, I've run 7 statewide races in 8 years. But I decided to run for governor because I recognize the difference. You can vote on policy, work on policy. I had the chance to do tax reform with the president. I sat on the Ways and Means Committee. If any of you heard of the Ways and Means Committee before? Somebody described it to me as the committee that had the most ways it can be mean. All health care, tax policy, trade agreements, all those go through Ways and Means. But I ran for governor because I recognize governors are CEOs. They can make decisions and set an agenda. And I ran 2 years ago based on the fact that South Dakota could be an example to the nation. I believe because we were small, because we didn't have that many people, we could do things that other states can't do. We could be the pilot project for big reforms, conservative policies, show that they benefit the people, and that we were better off if the nation would use that type of model and vision for the future. I had no idea that our opportunity would come through a pandemic. This last 6 months has been challenging. And I'll be honest with you, I will admit at times it's been really lonely. We did things differently in South Dakota than a lot of other states. Thank God you guys have a good governor. He's done a remarkable job protecting your freedoms. And every chance you get, you support him, back him up. He's got your back. You should have his as well. But what I want to tell you is that a lot of us governors, we spent hundreds of hours on conference calls. And we talked about the situation we were facing. I spent hours studying what was going on in other countries, looking at the models, the studies, what was going on in other states. But I also did something a little bit different. I spent a lot of time talking to my general counsel, to my constitutional attorneys. I wanted to know for sure what authorities I had as governor, but also what authorities I didn't have. So for instance, we never once closed a business in South Dakota. No. Define what an essential business was, because I as governor didn't have the authority to tell you that your business isn't essential. I also never issued a shelter in place. We never mandated any masks. What I told my people is that I'm going to stand up in front of you. I gave 45 press conferences in 60 days, and I said, here's the facts. I'm going to tell you everything I know. We're going to focus on the science, the data, the facts here on the ground in South Dakota. I'm going to let you use personal responsibility, and then I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you to make the best decisions for your family. I never have seen anything like I've seen fear control people these last 6 months, and emotion. And I want you to know a couple of things about leaders. Leaders never make good decisions when they're making an emotional decision. And you never want a leader that oversteps their authority in a time of crisis. That's how we break our country. That's how we lose America and our foundation. I learned that when I stood up at press conferences, I couldn't just tell people the decisions I was making. I had to explain why I was making them. I had to educate them on the importance of the foundation of this country, how the Constitution gives us the basis for how we maintain our special way of life for our kids and our grandkids. And I just spent hours talking to people, not just about what I was deciding, but why I was making them and why it looked so different from what we were seeing in so many other states. And really the reality is that leadership has consequences. It has consequences, and I'm here today to talk to all of you and just have an honest conversation about what we're facing. We have one president that dearly loves this country and will fight every single day to protect it for the future. We have a candidate that wants to destroy this country, and he needs to lose today, every day till now. You need to go out and tell the story of what President Trump has delivered for this country, but also what he's going to do to continue to make sure that we live in the greatest country in the world. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of thoughts, because you're the party faithful. You're the ones that we come to get the work done. Is I need you, as you go out and you do the work that you've done in every single election, I need you to do more. You know, this world is getting crazy. There's no mother that wants to raise her children on the streets of Portland today. And all these Democrat-run cities and the violence and the rioting that we see needs to be addressed, dealt with, and pointed out to those people that are still on the fence. That is the kind of consequences they'll continue to see if they continue to put these kind of people with these beliefs in power and in charge over their lives. Those conversations need to be had. So when you leave here, I know that a lot of times we look and we hate when we turn on the news, we hate the fighting. I'm not a confrontational person. Nobody ever believes that about me, but I don't love it. It's not great. I was so proud of the vice president last night. Debates are miserable. They really are. And he's a peaceful man that loves people. So for him to go into that, be factual yet confrontational in a way that really addressed truth and the lies that were coming out of her mouth was incredible. What he did was fantastic, and I was so proud of him. But I need you, when you leave here, to decide that you're going to go out and have conversations you would have never dreamed of having before. Listen, we live in a world that loves to be offended, right? This country is addicted to being offended. Somebody says something and oh my gosh, I'm so offended, I can't handle it. It's just, we just get over yourselves. Just get over it. Somebody told me one time that people are going to throw offenses out there all the time. You're the one that decides if you want to pick it up and carry it around with you. And then you're the one carrying the burden. So what I need you to do is to go out and talk to people that you haven't spoken to before because you didn't want to have that hard conversation. Listen to them. When you go fill your car up with gas today, the person pumping gas next to you, say, who are you voting for and why? And listen and have a conversation. Educate them on why you're supporting this president and why it's important that they continue to do that. If they want to continue to afford that gas that's going in their car, they want to continue to put food on their table, if they want to have the ability to make decisions for their family into the future. You go to church, oh my goodness, we can't have these conversations at church. Go have these conversations at church. You go to the grocery store, have these conversations in the checkout line. These are the things that will turn the hearts and minds of people towards this president and take the emotion out of it. Just give them the facts on what he's done and how he's proven himself to us. And he's followed through and kept his word on every single thing that he said he would do. And the last thing I want to ask you to do is just be happy. All right? We're the Republican Party. We are the hope. We are the vision for this country. All I did in South Dakota is really take the Republican platform. Instead of talking about it, we just did it. We just did it. And here's the results that we have in South Dakota today. I'm one of the only states that ended my fiscal year with a budget surplus. We don't have an income tax. We don't have a corporate income tax. We don't have a personal property tax. All I have is a sales tax. It's 4.5%. My sales tax, I know, they are the best state in the nation to have your business and your life. But our sales tax is at 110% of normal right now because people are spending money and out there doing business, and our economy is doing great. We have the strongest economy in the nation right now in the state of South Dakota because our number 2 industry is our our tourism industry, we're at 148% of normal. I could triple the size of my economic development department right now, and I couldn't answer the phone fast enough for all the businesses and the people that are moving to South Dakota because they just want to be free. They want to be somewhere where the leadership respects them. And Vice President Pence said that last night. He said that this president respects the freedom that Americans deserve and that they have. And it was a perfect quote because that's really what people are hungry for. They want to know that somebody will trust them. And that they won't think that they always know better, trying to steal more money out of their pockets, trying to regulate them more, that they want somebody else to trust them with their own resources. I have one of the lowest death rates in the nation. Fauci told me I'd have 10,000 people in the hospital on my worst day. The most I've had is about 250. So the models were completely wrong. I had press conferences just blowing up the models for what they told us. We also are doing an incredible job on taking care of people, but also making sure that we have opportunities into the future. We did the Republican Party platform. We did what this president does every day. Is he just goes out and works for you and trusts you to make good decisions. He deserves us out there fighting every day for him and making sure that he wins this election so he can continue to lead us and keep this country. You woke up this morning better off than 99% of the other people in the world, just because you woke up in this country. Let's keep it that way, okay? So thank you so much for all the work that you do. May God bless you, may God bless
the County, Mr. Carmine Marcino. Thank you for having me here today. It is always an honor to speak and express my absolute support for President Donald Trump. I am truly grateful to say I had the honor to meet our president, and I can tell you from personal experience that he is genuinely and without a doubt supports law enforcement and all first responders, because President Trump is willing to do what it takes to maintain law and order in this country. Shortly after taking office, President Trump signed an executive order that helps prevent violence against law enforcement, local, state, and federal. And that was just the beginning. Unfortunately, as you all know, we live in a time where some places law enforcement is under attack, and it infuriates me. My fellow brothers and sisters around the country are being killed and harmed while serving and protecting their communities. Thankfully, Collier and Lee has not seen this type of violence. The great residents of Collier and Lee County have either expressed unwavering support for law enforcement or participated in peaceful being the key word, demonstrations. Protesting is part of your constitutional right, but the violence and riots, I can assure you, are not. I can assure you that I will do whatever it takes, being very close with the Collier Sheriff, Kevin Ramos, and their team, to keep you safe. I will never tolerate violence, and those who commit crimes absolutely go behind bars in jail. That I will maintain law and order. That's a foreign language today, right? Law and order. Because Lee County and Collier are paradise, and we will dedicate whatever resources necessary to keep it that way. President Trump signed another executive order while in office favoring law enforcement safe communities. This order touches on various topics, but specifically addresses community engagement. When we work together, we
all of us can accomplish anything, anything. Our community response unit engages the community at a level that it's never been seen before. We have community outreach centers, crime prevention practitioners, special operations, and countless other things that keep you safe. But most importantly, this bridges the gap between law enforcement and the residents of Lee and Collier County, and we have safe communities with law and order. I will continue to work hard each and every day and enhance already the relationship we have with you, but with President Trump's support, I am able to deliver on these promises. It's because of our president that I'm able to do that. Safety and security is my main priority while serving as your sheriff, but I've also learned that leadership, as we all know, starts at the top. I make sure that my team knows that the good people in these counties will be safe and criminals will absolutely go behind bars. And as a result, in Lee County, we've seen another 11% decrease in crime in the first 6 months. And like I said, leadership starts at the top. And with President Trump, he is leading this country through a very difficult time, and he has made it absolutely clear. One of his main goals is to maintain law and order, and he gives law enforcement the necessary tools to accomplish that goal. And with leadership like that, with President Trump, we cannot fail. I am very proud to serve as your Lee County Sheriff, and I'm honored to stand here before you today. But I want to leave you with a very important thought. I personally have met the President. I personally believe in the President. I fully endorsed publicly the President. He is the only candidate that will lead our great country into the future. So let's keep America great, and God bless.